Hey team, Coach Dennis here with your tip of the day. I hope you're all enjoying this beautiful Masters Sunday, watching some golf like I am. I'm here on a break and I just wanted to quickly address caffeine. I've had some recent questions on this, so I want to provide a quick overview, an easy guide for you to think about when you're consuming caffeine. So first, it is true caffeine may help you with performance. If you're wondering that, yes, some research has shown that intake of caffeine, especially like an hour before performing, in endurance events, some strength events, it has been shown to help. With endurance athletes, we've seen improved time trial times, some decreased time to exhaustion, and similarly in strength athletes we've seen the ability to squeeze out a few more reps. So it seems really like in the 70% effort time range. These things are true for both endurance and strength athletes. Generally speaking, what we're seeing is improvements in stamina, right? Not so much top end strength. So again, we're maybe not going to see top speeds for an endurance athlete, or new 1 rep maxes for strength athletes, but more likely to see somebody hit 70% for maybe 12 reps instead of 10 or something like that, right? So with that said, for basketball players, we're doing repeated bouts of sprints. Yes, improved stamina very well could help you. Okay. What's interesting about caffeine, how it seems to work, the mechanism it seems to work with is caffeine interacts with endorphins and pain receptors. So what seems like is really happening is that, kind of putting it simply, caffeine makes us feel better. So we're able to work a little harder. We get a slight sense of euphoria, a sense of alertness, maybe we're more present, decreased pain. All these things add up and we're more willing to work hard and less likely to quit sooner, is what it really seems like. So it is kind of mental, but that's not to say it's not a real effect, but it's not going to necessarily make your muscles stronger in a given effort or your lungs able to take more oxygen, anything like that. All those things have to come from training. So if it can help you, the question really is, how much then should I take, and is it legal within the NCAA's rules? So I'm just going to read to you here first. Through research, general consensus has shown that for best results, an athlete can consume 2 to 6 milligrams of caffeine per kilogram of body weight, or putting it more simply, about 1 to 3 cups of coffee, and that's for a 150-pound individual. If you weigh a bit more, possibly you could drink a little bit more, but we could do the strict math if you're trying to figure that out. So again, 2 to 6 milligrams of caffeine per kilogram of body weight in a given sitting, about 1 hour before game time or your training is ideal to get optimal effects of the caffeine. That's what we've seen in the studies. This amount is considered both safe for your health and should be safe within the NCAA's regulations guidelines. So to read you the NCAA guidelines, it states that a urinary caffeine concentration exceeding 15 micrograms per milliliter will result in a positive drug test. So what does that mean? Essentially, this corresponds to ingesting about 500 milligrams, or the equivalent of 6 to 8 cups of brewed coffee at one time, about 2 to 3 hours before competition. So that's a lot of coffee. However, this is something you should consider. A cup of coffee is the actual measurement cup, right? Not a venti Starbucks, right? Actually, if you drink a venti Starbucks, you are ingesting about 415 milligrams of caffeine. So if you have a little bit more than that even, you're actually getting close to that 500 milligram limit. So that's something to consider. If you go ahead and drink 2 ventis before game time, you very well could be and probably are in violation of NCAA regulations. And you can look those up online easily, and the penalties for that are not fun. So we definitely do not want to do that. The other thing is there are side effects with caffeine. If you're drinking 2 ventis, your stomach's probably going to be pretty upset. You may have to go to the bathroom unnecessarily. That could really impede on your performance. Other side effects with caffeine include anxiety, shakiness, nausea. So all these things could negatively impact your performance. And these studies that show where a cup or 2 of coffee or the equivalent in some other form of caffeine an hour before game time, there's been no studies that show that more than that will have it continue of increase. It's just kind of a limit, a rate limiting thing. So it's just that amount that they've studied on is the amount that will get you those benefits. Going over that is probably a return on or a negative return, right? So at that point is when you're going to start seeing those negative side effects, and they're going to outweigh the actual potential benefits that we get from, because again, it's mostly a mental thing, right? The euphoria and all that. If that's not there, then you're not probably going to perform better. Okay, sorry. So that's a bit of a rant. So a few other things to keep in mind. Be really, if you plan to use caffeine, and you want to try this out and see if it helps you perform better, make sure you're 100% certain on what you're putting into your body. So pick out a drink, or if it's not a drink, if it's a bar or whatever, that's very clear on the labeling of how much caffeine is in there, and what the other ingredients are. There are some ingredients, for instance, guarana, which is a clearly banned substance within the NCAA. So although while the caffeine level might be okay, the guarana is not. So you really want to watch out for that. Make sure also the amount of caffeine is clearly labeled. So to kind of wrap this up, it's definitely a good idea to create a habit. You're taking a risk for sure. We don't want you to potentially violate any rules, so we want to utilize moderation. And you have to ask yourself, is the risk really worth it? There are such things as non-responders. In these studies we've seen, not everybody even really gets these benefits from it. So if you're somebody who's not really a caffeine enthusiast in the first place, and if you ever had any negative side effects from caffeine, then it's probably not worth even experimenting with. If you are a coffee lover or a caffeine lover, then also, sorry to break some news to you, is that the performance enhancing benefits are not probably going to be as strong as if you were not a regular caffeine consumer, because basically you have a tolerance to it. There are ways to cycle that, and if we were really trying to get to the edge, we could potentially wean you off the caffeine and put you back on and try and get it. But here's the thing. Of all these benefits from caffeine, none compare at all to the benefits of eating right, sleeping right, and training right, practicing right. All these things done correctly significantly outweigh the potential benefits of caffeine. So you cannot replace food, you cannot replace sleep, you cannot necessarily improve your training that much more with caffeine. And if you're trying to do so, then we're doing something wrong. So keep that in mind. I think with all that said, the evidence, again, it is there that potentially could help you, but it is certainly probably the least of your concerns and could get you in trouble if you take it too far, and could also just kind of have a negative return if you overdo it and you start feeling shaky and anxiety and whatnot. So with that said, enjoy life, enjoy caffeine responsibly, in moderation. Cheers to that. I'm a lover myself, so I'm not gonna, tell you anything that I wouldn't do. I drink about 1 venti a day, although I'm not performing in the NCAA, so I don't have to worry about it. If you have questions further about specific beverages or supplements and you're not sure if you should take it, please don't reach out to me first. We'll figure it out what's right for you. And if you have any other concerns, diet, sleep, exercise, again, reach out. Those things are going to definitely be way more important than any cup of coffee or energy drink that you take before a game. Cheers to that. Happy Sunday, and talk to you all later.